In a narrow limestone cave in southern Poland, 8 Neanderthal teeth were sitting quietly in storage. Some came from one sediment layer, others came from layers thousands of years apart. By every rule of archaeology, those teeth should have belonged to strangers. They did not. In April 2026, an international team led by Andrea Picin of the University of Bologna published the results of a remarkable study in the journal Current Biology. The team pulled ancient mitochondrial DNA from those 8 teeth, and what they found rewrites the picture of one of the most mysterious Neanderthals ever discovered. The teeth were not strangers. They belonged to a small Neanderthal family who lived together about 100,000 years ago. The genetic lineage they carried may force scientists to redate a Neanderthal who until now was thought to be one of the very last of his kind. This is the story of Stajnia Cave and the family hidden inside it. Stajnia Cave sits high in the Krakow-Częstochowa upland in southern Poland between the small villages of Mirau and Bobolis. The cave itself is narrow, only 2 to 4 meters wide at most, 23 meters deep, and carved into a limestone outcrop 359 meters above sea level. Archaeological excavations there took place between 2007 and 2010, and the team working there uncovered something unusual: 9 ancient teeth. 5 of those teeth had already been confirmed as Neanderthal in earlier studies. The new research, led by Picin and co-coordinator Sara Talamo, also at the University of Bologna, went much further. The team carefully ground between 8 and 30 milligrams of powder from each tooth. These were tiny samples, almost invisible to the naked eye, taken to protect the fossils. From those grams of dust, they extracted mitochondrial DNA, the genetic material passed down only through the mother's line. What they got back was extraordinary. 8 of the 9 teeth yielded complete or near-complete mitochondrial genomes. Those genomes showed that the teeth belonged to at least 7 different Neanderthal individuals, possibly 8. All of them lived during the same broad period, around 100,000 years ago. For the first time in any region of Central Eastern Europe, scientists had a genetic snapshot of multiple Neanderthals from a single moment in time. Then came the surprise. 3 of those teeth carried identical mitochondrial DNA. 2 of them belonged to children. The third belonged to an adult. Hajdinjak of the Max Planck Institute for Evolutionary Anthropology, one of the study's authors, put it plainly. The most likely explanation, she said, is that those individuals were closely related to one another. A mother, 2 children, possibly aunts, grandmothers, cousins. The exact relationship may never be known. But for the first time, researchers were looking at a Neanderthal family that had once shared the same cave, the same shelter, and the same blood. And there was one more twist. The 3 matching teeth were not found together. They came from completely different layers of the cave's sediment, separated by what should have been long stretches of time. The discovery quietly revealed something archaeologists had long suspected but rarely proven. The sediments inside Stajnia Cave had been heavily mixed over the millennia. The cave's layers, in other words, could not be trusted as a clock. Once the genomes were sequenced, the team did something paleogenetics rarely allows. They placed the 7 Stajnia Neanderthals on the global Neanderthal family tree. What they found redrew a map. The Stajnia individuals all belonged to the same maternal lineage. They sat on a single mitochondrial branch. That branch had been seen before, but never in southern Poland. The closest matches came from Neanderthals found in 3 places, spread across thousands of kilometers: the Iberian Peninsula in what is now Spain and Portugal, the southeast of France, and the northern Caucasus, near the border of modern-day Russia and Georgia. That is a staggering range. From the Atlantic coast of Iberia to the foothills of the Caucasus. A single Neanderthal maternal lineage was once spread across western Eurasia. It included a small group of 7 living 100,000 years ago in a cold cave north of the Carpathian Mountains. The connection to the Caucasus was particularly striking. An earlier study of a single Stajnia molar known as S5000 had already shown that the closest known relative of that tooth was a Neanderthal called Mezmaiskaya I, recovered from a cave in the northern Caucasus. The new research confirms that the link was not a fluke. It was a population-wide signal of contact between two regions separated by entire mountain systems. How did Neanderthals move that far? The researchers have proposed that ancient river corridors, particularly the Prut and the Dniester rivers, may have served as natural highways. Combined with the spread of a Middle Paleolithic stone tool tradition called the mitochondrial, found in Poland, Germany, and the Caucasus, the picture starts to look less like isolated bands of Neanderthals and more like a connected mobile network. But here's the key detail. This widespread lineage eventually disappeared. By the time later Neanderthals were living in Europe, a different mitochondrial branch had replaced it. The Stajnia family was part of an older population, one that had once dominated, then quietly vanished from the genetic record, leaving only a handful of bones and teeth scattered from Spain to the Caucasus. Until April of 2026, those scattered remains looked like ghosts. Now, in Stajnia Cave, we finally have the family they came from. This is where the story takes a turn that may upend a different headline you have already heard. In 2024, scientists announced the discovery of a Neanderthal nicknamed Thorin, recovered from Mandarin Cave in southeastern France. Thorin's claim to fame was his timing. According to radiocarbon dating, he had lived around 42,000 to 50,000 years ago, making him one of the very last Neanderthals ever to walk the earth. But his DNA was strange. It was old, older than it should have been for a Neanderthal who lived so close to the end. To explain it, researchers proposed that Thorin had come from a long, isolated population, a so-called ghost lineage that had stayed cut off from other Neanderthals for tens of thousands of years. The Stajnia team disagrees. When Picin's team compared Thorin's mitochondrial DNA to the 7 Stajnia Neanderthals, they were nearly identical. Thorin sits squarely on the same branch as a family who lived 100,000 years ago in Poland. That left 2 possible explanations. Either Thorin was a 50,000-year-old survivor of an ancient ghost population, or the radiocarbon date itself was wrong. The Stajnia team argued for the second option. They pointed out that the radiocarbon readings used to date Thorin were so close to the technical limit of the method that they could not be statistically separated from background noise. Sara Talamo, the University of Bologna professor who coordinated the new study, put it bluntly. The oldest chronologies, she said, must be treated with great caution. In other words, Thorin may not be one of the last Neanderthals at all. He may be one of the oldest. When the team removed his disputed archaeological age from their genetic model, his estimated age shifted backward, much closer to the Stajnia individuals. Whether Thorin is genuinely about 50,000 years old or closer to 100,000 remains an open question. But the Stajnia family forces the field to take that question seriously. A study that began with 8 teeth in a small Polish cave has now reached forward in time and challenged a different fossil, sitting nearly 1,000 miles away. The Stajnia cave study does something rare in paleogenetics. It does not just add another individual to a list, it gives us a family. 7 Neanderthals from one place, one moment, and one connected world that once stretched from Spain to the Caucasus. It also reminds us how fragile our certainty really is. A radiocarbon date that everyone trusted may not survive the next decade. A ghost population that explained a strange Neanderthal may have been an artifact of bad dating, not biology. If this look at Stajnia Cave has changed how you think about the last Neanderthals, hit subscribe. Origins Revealed is built on stories exactly like this one, the kind where ancient DNA quietly rewrites everything we thought we knew.